we need to discuss one of the most important pieces of your fishing equipment that can have great days of success or great days of failure. Stay tuned and we're going to talk about that. Hey friends, welcome to Casting with Kirk. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Kirk. Today I want to talk to you about fishing line. Fishing line connects this to this, and without it, you've got a paperweight and you've got a pretty little decoration you can hang up. So fishing line comes in different colors, different pound tests they call it, which is like how much it can take before it breaks. Comes in different spool sizes, different styles, different types. Today I want to break it down to make it really simple. I'm not going to get all scientific because I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy that loves to bass fish and make sure I get those fish hooked and get them in the boat. One of the longest existing fishing lines is what's called monofilament fishing line. It's, as long as you get a good brand, it's strong. It has some stretch to it. It has got some give. It will float. Comes in a multitude of different colors. I've got 3 different colors here. I've got white, I've got an ice blue, and I've got a green. The most common color I use is just a nice clear. It's an all-around good color. You can use this pretty much for just about any lures you throw. It comes in many, many different sizes, all the way from 2 pound up to, from what I've seen, around 50 to 70 pound monofilament. I buy it in these big spools. It's about $9 for one of these, and this is an 8 pound, which I use on my spinning reels, 1,700 yards. This has lasted me a couple of seasons. Now there is another line that you can use that helps when you're fishing really heavy cover, really heavy slop, where you need a really good solid hook set to get them through that kind of cover, and that's braided fishing line. Now, braided fishing line has been around for a long time also. I remember growing up, that's all we'd use was monofilament and braided line, and we had pretty much had us covered. And today you can still do that with the quality of the stuff. So braided line, the most common color you're going to find is a green. It comes in gray. Sometimes you'll see it in black. There's even red. A lot of times on spinning reels, guys will use yellow just so they can see that line. It comes in pound tests of like 10-pound test up to 65-pound tests are the most common for bass fishing. I'll use a braided line on my spinning rod that is anywhere from 20 to 30 pound in the braid, and there's a equivalence of the monofilament to that. 30-pound braid usually equals out to an 8-pound monofilament size. When I'm fishing real heavy stuff with my bait casting setups, I'll go to a 50-pound. That I can work frogs across the surface. I can throw my swim jigs into dirty stuff and know that I'm going to get that solid hook set and get them ripped out. The third line I want to talk about today, it's called fluorocarbon. Now, I don't want to get all scientific. Like I said, I'm not a scientist on this stuff. Fluorocarbon sinks quicker. It doesn't float as much like braid and monofilament. There's a light refraction to it, which basically means it's a little more or less visible to the fish in the water. About the only time I really worry about that is I'm fishing crystal clear water where I'm seeing 20 to 30 feet down. Then I'm thinking they might see that green braided line a little bit easier. If I use this for spinning, I'm going to do what they call a leader, where you take maybe 2 feet of it and tie it onto your braided line with a knot. And that way, if it is really clear water, it's going to keep, if you're worried about the fish seeing the braided line, they're going to see, or they're not going to see this down at the end of it to where your lure is located. You can also buy it specifically in smaller diameters and smaller spools that you use as the leader, so you don't have to worry about getting the big spools. This is a lot cheaper way to go if you're just looking for the leaders. If I'm throwing this on my bait casters, I'm throwing like If I really want to get my crankbaits down because it does sink better, I'll use 10 pound to 12 pound for my crankbaits. If I'm throwing spinner baits, I'll be throwing somewhere around 15 pound fluorocarbon. A fourth one I'm going to talk about is called a hybrid copolymer. I've really come to like a lot of this stuff. Again, you can get this kind of like the monofilament in big, huge spools. This is a 15 pound, and I think it ran me $9. And it's two nylon materials like monofilament and fluorocarbon put together. You get less stretch than the monofilament. You get a little more, I guess you would call it, invisibility in the water like the fluorocarbon. It's really good scratch resistant fishing line when you're fishing around things like docks and wood and dragging across rocks. I use this almost exclusively on my bait casting reels. I'll use anywhere from the 10 all the way up to 15, sometimes 17 pound. It's a really good, strong, easy casting line. Doesn't break the bank. Now, talking about price, like I said, on average, you can get these big, huge spools of this Berkeley trilene, big game it's called. You can get this at, any of your sporting goods stores, box stores, for right around $7, $8. Your braided line, around 200 yards of the good quality stuff, it's going to run you about $20. You can get bigger spools, that's going to run you $50, $60, but that's going to last you a whole season or even two. This stuff doesn't wear out as fast as some of these other lines. Your fluorocarbon, a 200-yard spool, that's going to run you somewhere between, depending upon the quality, $18 to about $30, depending upon the brand. Your copolymer, like I said, is going to run you about $9 for just about any pound size that you're looking for. In these big, huge spools, this one is 800 yards. These little spools, these will run you about $12, $13 of the fluorocarbon. One item I always like to get at the beginning of every season is what's called a line conditioner. When I'm spooling up my reel, I'm putting this on a nice lint-free type of rag, and as I'm reeling, I'm holding the line between it. This is soaked into that rag, and it kind of cleans off some of the material that's used on fishing line. It's coating it. It makes it more supple and easier to handle, and it throws actually a lot further. Once it's on my spool, I will just sit and I will soak it. And then before I'm going out fishing, say the night before, I'll soak it again, and it just gets down into that line. It doesn't affect the strength of it. It's not going to cause things to break. It just makes it easier to use. All right, if you enjoyed this type of information, you want to follow along for more tips and tricks, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and just cast those down below, and we'll have a conversation about it. Thanks for joining me. You folks have a great day.